When The Last Samurai was released, many viewers saw it as a well-made historical drama, but nothing more. Critics praised Tom Cruise's performance and the costumes and camera work. However, as time passed, it became clear that the film is not just about the battles and the accurate samurai armor. Director Zwick used the story of the decline of the samurai class in Japan as a way to reflect on the fate of civilizations, especially traditional societies. To understand the deeper meaning of the film, it's important to know the main events in Japanese history during the 19th century. Until the mid-19th century, Japan was a closed country with a traditional feudal system, divided into several classes: peasants, warriors, priests, and nobles. The military class, known as the samurai, developed its own code of ethics based on the principles of national culture. This code was similar to the rules of medieval European chivalry and placed a great emphasis on the concept of military honor. Battles were seen as duels between equal opponents, a sort of divine judgment. In the middle of the 19th century, the United States threatened Japan with force to open its markets for American goods and end its isolation. Emperor Meiji, realizing that his country was doomed without reform, began to modernize society. In this new environment, samurai with their ancient traditions and honor codes were no longer needed. They were offered two options: to stop being samurai or stop existing altogether. The samurai chose the latter in the film too. However, they are portrayed as the embodiment of traditional values and guardians of Japanese identity, while the modern industrial capitalist world is opposed to them. The director's sympathies clearly lie with the samurai. This brings us to the main message of the film: the clash between tradition and modernity. From the very beginning of the film, Captain Algren is presented as a symbolic figure, an embodiment of the new industrial order that emerged in the United States after the Civil War. It is not a coincidence that he becomes a hero in this war, nor is it a coincidence that he takes an active part in the genocide of Native Americans, who are similar to the samurai, who were also representatives of a traditional and archaic society. Creatures like the samurai were. Thus, the aggressive nature of the new civilization, which emerged in the second half of the 19th century, is highlighted. All societies that stand in the way of progress, all ethnic groups who refuse to play by the rules, find themselves on the brink of destruction sooner or later. The old concepts of honor have been long forgotten, and in their place, the cult of money has arisen. Driven by a desire for profit, Agro arrived in Japan, as he had in the case of the Indians before, ready to kill people he knew nothing about and who had done nothing to him. Samurais were just another savage people to him, with whom he should not be polite. However, after being taken captive by the savages, he became so impressed by their spiritual nobility that he eventually sided with them. Moreover, he finally regained his lost sense of spiritual harmony. Algren's spiritual transformation helps us to understand the main idea of the film. Modern Western society also needs the values of a more traditional society, as this society needs Western technology. You can't go far with just a dollar cult. Without faith and ideals, any society will degrade. By the way, these aren't necessarily samurai ideals. European culture has its own examples of honor and nobility, military traditions, and humanism. However, since the film is set in Japanese history, we see the meditating Japanese man at the beginning as a symbol of the spiritual values of traditional society. Even the most dedicated samurai fans agree that the image of Katsumoto, the knight, without fear or reproach, was too perfect. However, this wasn't a mistake on the part of the screenwriter or director, but rather part of their overall plan. Katsumoto represents military honor, which is essential for a society, or war would degenerate into inhuman slaughter. In addition to contempt for death and loyalty to their suzerain, the ideals of the military unit include respect for the enemy and generosity, which are incompatible with the mass shooting of unarmed people. It is especially important since there were many different people in the unit, from fanatics and thugs to impeccable warriors like Katsumoto. Although Katsumoto explained his capture by the Americans by the desire to learn English, it is clear that there was a different reason. Seeing Algren, who was doomed and wounded, fight off half a dozen samurai alone, the Japanese felt involuntary respect for his courage and saw him as a worthy opponent. Overall, the relationship between Algren and Katsumoto perfectly fits into Kipling's famous lines. But there is no West, and there is no East. There are no nations, clans, or barriers when two strong and brave men look into each other's eyes, although they did not immediately come to a common understanding. If the friendship and then the military brotherhood between Algren and Katsumoto seem psychologically reliable, then the romantic relationship between the samurai widow and her killer caused some viewers to question. The image can still be interpreted as an embodiment of eternal love that forgives all, and we can assume that the director included a romantic subplot to avoid the ambiguity of the Algren-Katsumoto relationship, given that homosexuality was a tradition among the samurai. So, without a doubt, Algren loves a woman, and Katsumoto loves Japan, considering that homosexuality was also a tradition among samurai. After the heroic death of the last samurai, Algren hands his sword to Emperor Meiji, and in 3 minutes, he literally changes the foreign policy of Japan. Since this was an unprecedented event in history, it should be interpreted symbolically. Katsumoto and his colleagues proved to the government the importance of preserving national traditions through their sacrifice. They showed that it is necessary to rely on the best aspects of the country's past in order to ensure its future. As a result, Japan began to rapidly develop when it managed to combine these traditions with technological progress. It is believed that Saigo Takamori was the prototype for Katsumoto, as he opposed modernization and led the Satsumite Uprising in 1877. After losing the battle near Kumamoto, he committed seppuku, or ritual suicide, but of course, no one was there to witness it. However, Walgren also has a partial prototype in the form of Jules Brunet. He was a Frenchman who became a member of the French mission in Japan and participated in the Boshin War, which was fought between supporters of the Tokugawa shogunate and supporters of the emperor. Along with other French officers, Brunet helped organize the shogun's army on the island of Hokkaido during the war. After the war, he returned to France and lived a long life, eventually rising to the rank of general. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with our new movie and TV series reviews. Also, feel free to leave a comment below with your favorite movie that you would like us to review. As always, have a great day and see you next time.